Welcome to the Complete Fitness Podcast with Core 4 Complete Fitness. Your episode is starting in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Complete Fitness Podcast. You may have noticed I'm not here alone. If you're watching. If you're listening, you're going, nope, Evan, didn't notice that. My wife, Chandice, is here, back by popular demand. It's been like a year since you've been on the podcast.
Wow.
This is now episode 130. Last time we were talking about...
we were at home.
We were at home when we recorded, so there was no video. And we were talking about getting back to working out post-baby, which was... It had a lot of listens. It was a good one. So people enjoy when you're on the podcast.
That's great.
That's great.
Love it.
But today, a whole new topic. Definitely mindset heavy that we're going to talk about today, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
Complete Fitness Podcast refers to fitness of the mind as well. And so this is a topic that we started talking about maybe a month ago now.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since we've been able to orchestrate getting the babysitter and all that stuff to be able to actually record this together. But it's about a month removed, and we have purposefully not talked about it since then. So it's hopefully a more authentic conversation that we can get done in, the next 25 minutes. Before this, I've been asking everybody at the gym, and so now I'm curious to ask you, if you had, and you at home, think about this, although you can't tell me, or wherever you are listening. If someone had a gun to your head, right?
Jeez.
I know. Someone had a gun to your head and they said, I'm going to watch any pilot episode of any show from any era, anything, as long as it's recorded and exists, I can watch the pilot episode. And if I like it, you're safe. If I don't like it, sorry, this is going to get ugly. Now, I do want to preface this question. The reason I want to bring it up to you on the pod was you and I are Office super fans.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the best show ever.
Yeah.
It's the best show ever. However, and I think you probably agree, I would not choose that one in this situation because multiple reasons. First, The Office is there's haters. People hate it just because they think they can,
They don't
I guess.
like the cringy
humor.
Humor.
Michael Scott can be cringy to people. It's uncomfortable to them.
Yeah.
Some people think it's funny. Most people, I think by a heavy majority, it's one of the best shows of all time. However, that risk I would be not willing to take. And also, it just starts slow. Like, you need to take that into account. I asked a member this morning, and she said Game of Thrones, which is, I loved Game of Thrones, disappointed at the ending. However, I specifically remember it taking 2-3 months to get into it. I remember watching the first episode and being like, and not wanting to keep watching the next episode. So to me, although it's a great show, it's a fantastic show. If it's not grabbing you episode 1, it's not going to work. So think it over. What is your pilot episode show? Do you got it?
I do.
Hit me.
Jane the Virgin.
Jane the Virgin. Yes.
It's so good.
Okay, Jane the Virgin. Explain the show as if people are all virgins to it.
It's got romance.
It's got
intrigue. It really is a very unique show in the way that it's shot and just the commentary. Jane, who and it's supposed to be like a modern day soap opera telenovela, which people aren't really used to now, and a lot of television shows are not written that way.
Do you think that could be off-putting to Mr. Gun to your head or Mrs.?
It could be. I guess the feedback.
I guess
the feedback I received the most is that it's too corny. That's the point, though, of the show, is that it is.
Does
corny.
it take more than one episode to get that?
I think
you're into
the
it.
first episode is awesome.
Okay.
And it really hooks people. People lose interest, I think, a little bit as it goes on.
But that's okay
Unless you have
for this
great
situation.
taste.
If you're surviving, unless you have great taste, is that what you said? But if you're surviving this made up situation where the person only wants to watch the first episode,
yeah, I do think that it's a
You're good.
really, because it
That much
is
steak.
the most,
Squeeze
I would say, unique, I guess, story. I mean,
Sure.
you know a little bit about it.
Sure.
But
yeah.
I guess
think it's a good
that would
choice.
be my one.
That's a fine
show.
choice.
Yeah.
Mine's Breaking Bad without question.
That's a good one.
Because I would, you know what I would do? I would look the gunman or gunwoman right in the eye and I'd say, I don't need the whole first episode, punk. I need the first 90 seconds of Breaking Bad. You are
It's good.
in.
Yeah, it's good.
Pantu, Walter White in the desert. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm pretty sure the show starts with him recording a video to his family.
Yeah.
Because he thinks
In the desert.
he's going to be arrested or killed.
Yeah.
It's one of those, if you're watching this, it's too late, blah, 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 blah. I'm so sorry for what I did. And you're just automatically like, okay, what did you do? What's going on? What's happening? What's this? What's that? What's that? What's this? If that doesn't grab you, that's, I don't know. I know it's very popular. A lot of people love Breaking Bad, but it's one of my favorite shows. But I also think it has that grab.
Yeah,
So if you are
Definitely.
listening to this potty waddy, let me know what you think. I'm very curious. I've been asking people a lot. And also, we're going to do these thinkers in podcasts going forward. I think it's a fun thing to make us think about things. Fun things like so. And then we got to do the boring part. Core 4 supplements, guys. Use promo code podcast. Spend $99, get free shipping to your door. Use promo code podcast. You save 10%. Get those supplementational needs. Get that protein in you. And then if you could subscribe on YouTube, on our Facebook page, and Spotify or Apple Podcasts, it would go a long way for us to continue making these things. Now, without further ado, let's get into the meat of the episode. Do you want to start us off? I think you should. Let's see how that goes.
Okay. Sounds
Interview me. It's your podcast. Just like
Finally,
our marriage.
It's mine.
It's like our marriage, right? It's all yours. I'm just along for the ride.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So a topic I think about often, and I take notes on it all the time. I talk to you about this, and it's been, I think, something that I've struggled with, I would say, since I was even a little kid.
Okay.
And I guess as a kid, you don't really know what it might be, but as an adult, I can look back, and that is confidence. And I think confidence has evolved in myself a lot since I was a kid to now.
Sure.
It's changed.
Same.
But I've really changed my mindset around confidence, and I've learned about it. And I just think it's a very, very interesting topic. And I think a lot can tie into confidence. And so one of the things that I think is so interesting about confidence is that, at least with me, is that, I like to talk to people. I think I appear more confident than I am.
The gift of gab.
Yeah.
No, you're very good at chatting. Small talk.
Love to chat.
I would tell people
Love small
that when we first started dating and I'd bring you around the family, that I wouldn't be worried about leaving you alone in a room.
That's a compliment to me, for sure.
You'd be very good at just small talking, and in a comfortable way. A lot of people hear small talk and they cringe because small talk sucks, in my opinion. But you're very authentic with it and genuine with it. You go, what do you do for a living? Not like, what do you do? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It's, you want to know, or you're curious, and you let people know that. You're very good at that.
Well, thank you. And I like it. And that's the thing about me. But
Yes,
I would
do.
say that I am very much an introverted person.
I would also say that's fair.
And
from my perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So navigating being an introvert, someone who genuinely does like relationships and connection. And I would, I think we all know, whether or not you're an introvert and extrovert, it's really where you get your energy from.
Yeah.
I recharge by myself.
hmm
Some people recharge by
I'm learning I
being
might be
out.
more extroverted than I think.
Yeah, I would say you're a little bit more. Definitely
Recently
more than
learning
me.
that I kind of recharge by social events.
Yeah. But I think
Crazy.
yeah,
Crazy to think
yeah,
about. Lived my whole life flipped.
definitely. But I think one of the things that kind of tying it into confidence is that something I've struggled with is I think since I was a kid, I was always flooded with these messages of speak up, in order to be successful, you need to be the leader in charge, the one putting yourself out there. And in my head, I've always just kind of put myself in a little box and say, maybe you're not, a leader. Maybe you're not somebody who, is going to be the center of attention. And maybe you're not going to be someone that the crowd looks to. And that starts to mess with your confidence a little bit.
Yeah.
And it starts to sort of say, well, I'm just not this, because I don't necessarily want to speak up in a crowd all the time.
Yeah.
I don't want to lead an entire
And that doesn't mean
team.
you're
And that doesn't mean I'm not good at it.
right.
And it doesn't mean that I don't possess qualities.
And it doesn't mean that you're not confident.
Exactly. And so that's kind of what I'm tying it into is, just, I don't think you have to be this extreme extrovert, to be a confident person. And I think naturally that's just kind of what we think and how we view people. And
well, what's a good example to kind of paint the picture of how we do think that?
How society thinks that? Or
like we had an example of being confrontational in a situation, and that's a good thing. That's what's said. It's a good thing to, if someone takes your parking space and not let them get away with it. It's just an example I'm making up off the top of my head. To get out of your car, go over, that was my parking space, blah, 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 have them back down, leave the parking space, and you get what you want. That's viewed as a very strong, alpha, confident thing. And what we talked about is that's not necessarily always the case, per se.
Right.
Maybe in that example, what you are doing by letting them have it and swallowing down how annoying that is to you, and knowing that that should have been yours and the right thing to do is yours, but being able to tough that out and understand that maybe they needed it more than I did for a second. Maybe I did this, is actually more of a leadership quality than that alpha move of, yeah, right, I'm going to go get my damn spot.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good example.
What's another example?
Well, like,
something more personal, like not to you, but more not personal, more.
I guess
less physical.
One thing that
getting out
one
of the
thing
car
that comes to mind
sticking
is
up for yourself.
Of course, everybody has their stories and experiences with work.
Yeah.
Because you work with, obviously they're not always going to be exactly who you want them to be. They're not going to be your best friends. They're going to be different personalities, and that's good. I don't want that to come across as everybody should be a certain way.
Yeah.
It's really about,
it's not the way the world works, baby.
It's just not how it works. So yeah, with work, there were, I would say a couple of coworkers who have the a more extroverted personality, a very strong personality, and who would oftentimes be, I guess, labeled as extremely confident when they would do things sometimes where it would almost confuse me and they would anger people, and it was extremely confrontational. And I just look at them and I'm like, how I guess
how is that strong?
How is that really strong?
It's actually the opposite. You're actually creating a divide.
You're creating.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of leadership.
Exactly.
Leaders
and so
are,
I struggle with that at work because you hear people say, oh, that so and so, they're strong, they're good, good leader,
right.
good confident, and I'm like, I've actually had some conversations with them, and I think they struggle with a lot of things. And not to say that, obviously a strong voice is good. That is good. But I think on the other end, I can sometimes come across as, especially at work, I'm definitely more quiet than I am in my personal life. Somebody who's meek, somebody who isn't confident. But and that's just something I've been thinking a lot about. It's just interesting. It's interesting.
I think the biggest word there is leadership and what a leader actually does. I think, we like thinking about you being an introvert who loves, like your love language is quality time.
Mm-hmm.
That's your number one.
Yeah.
How is an introverted person who likes to be alone, their number one love language?
Yeah.
Quality time.
Well, it's, yeah.
This is a different thing. This is just a little segue getting off, but that's got to be a hard thing to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you are somebody who loves communicating and chatting and small talk, if we're calling it that, and getting to know somebody and knowing your coworkers and colleagues and getting to know your boss, yet also kind of have more of a passive personality, more of a team player.
Yeah.
You're right. That does get looked in the workplace as not leadership quality.
Right.
When in reality, I'm sure there's a lot of things that you want to say and you don't, which actually takes more strength.
Or saying them anyway, because I think what I'm learning about myself is, because the more, obviously, if you hear time and time again, oh, you're quiet, you're this, why, you need to speak up, it kind of makes those people clam up a little bit, and they say, ooh, right, I don't really want to be told what to do. I don't really want to be forced.
No one's ever responded nicely.
Yeah, that's not really effective. Well. I think for us. But
you go to
but
meetings?
One thing I am learning. What's that?
I said you guys go to meetings. You guys all meet up.
Yes. But one thing I am learning is that the strongest and the I think bravest thing you can do in certain situations is when it's the hardest time to speak up, or when you're needed to speak up. You know what I mean? And it can be in a very thoughtful way. It can be however you approach situations. But kind of going back to like my work example, I've had some conversations and situations at work when the strong, confident person, they blow up in a meeting.
Yeah.
And they start to make hurtful comments.
Yeah.
And they start to create these relationships that they don't intend on repairing. They don't intend on having a conversation about it. And to me, I'm like, wow, this person is the opposite of being strong.
It's right there. This person's pretty fragile. And
they're
weak.
Pretty fragile.
Yeah. And it's considered in the workplace, it is this strong.
Yeah.
Alpha is the word I'm using.
Exactly.
Leadership strength to be able to speak your mind and voice your opinion,
not apologize,
not apologize, not admit you're wrong.
Not admit you're wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. And that to me
is
what
something, leadership is.
And that's something I've been thinking a lot about in the past few weeks.
I think that's super interesting.
I had that disagreement with this girl at work. It was more like a personal disagreement, and she totally misheard me. She talks a lot. She talks a lot.
Yeah.
Like I don't think she remembers what she says sometimes because she talks so much.
Oh, that's one of my biggest peeves.
Yeah. And
Don't you hate when you're talking quick? Don't you hate when you're talking to somebody and you can physically see them not listening to you and just thinking about the next thing they're going to say.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that is what she does. And
Get out of here.
I like her, in these situations, I do tend to listen fully. I just listen. I don't even give my input.
But that's strength.
Well,
you come home and tell your husband about it.
Yeah, but you remember what happened when we were talking about something and it had to do with our kids and everything, which is, I'm, a more sensitive topic to some people, and I do understand that. And she misheard me. She thought I said something really offensive to her, and I was very confused because she
got upset.
She got very upset, and she
just slowing down and
didn't even talk to me, for a couple of days, and I was confused. And I said, you know what? I think she misheard me. I think she thought I said something that I didn't say. And I knew that was the case. But by her refusing to talk to me, to say, hey, that really hurt my feelings, or hey, did you say that? I'm not really sure what you meant. And that's her personality, though. She's like, no way am I going to be the one to speak up. No way am I going to be the one to bring up a disagreement, because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's not fun. I'm right. I'm the one that's right. And in my head, I'm sitting there saying, I know exactly what is going on here.
Yeah. And
of course, I talk to her and I say, hey, you kind of seem upset with me. What's going on? Did I say something? We were talking the other day, and I replay the entire situation, and she said, yeah, you did hurt my feelings, and this is why. And in my head, I was like, I didn't say that. Yeah, she didn't even listen to me. And it created this entire, I guess, not argument, but like, if I didn't do that, there'd still be problems. We'd still have problems. Yeah. And so, and she's in my team and everything. And again, she gets a lot of attention as being a strong voice. But if you really go back, she's a loud voice.
She's not a strong voice. She's a loud voice.
If you take it back, if you step back a minute, and and I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything. I do just think there's been this really great misunderstanding about introverted people, quiet people, not being seen as like a strong voice or strong person. And me. Like, I refuse to pretend to be extroverted to be successful.
Yeah.
I
love it. And I think that's why I wanted to talk about it on this podcast with you, because I think it's super important and a super good way to look at things. Just one, because I don't think it does that much. And two, just like, if you're listening to this and you're somebody who is more on the quiet side and you view that as just being passive or whatever, to be able to internalize and healthily navigate. And when you absolutely have to, like, this is another example, when you had that crazy job switching situation, you had to actually quit your job and then ask for your job back, all within a super uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You did it.
Yeah.
And that is brave. You know what I mean? That's way braver than somebody just having this loud voice because she's upset with whatever.
Right.
And it's like one of those things where, like, just because you may be more quiet and viewed as passive, when shit hits the fan and there needs to be a step up and you need to do something, you'll have the uncomfortable conversation. Yeah. You'll have it. That's why I brought up that one situation, because that's an uncomfortable conversable that you needed to do. And you need to set your ego aside and you needed to do it. And that's a leadership mentality.
Yeah. Where definitely the uncomfortable conversation that I think that's a good one. Yeah.
It's prideful. Pride gets in the way a lot, and ego gets in the way a lot. And in this situation, and from my experience, knowing you for almost 7 years now.
Wow.
Almost exactly. I think you're very good at that.
Well, thanks.
You are better than me at that. I'll put off a tough conversation longer than I need to, or I'll get in my head a lot.
Yeah. I need to have the uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah, I do too.
Immediately.
I do too, and I will.
Yeah.
But it's something
It's more
that
uncomfortable.
I've
The
worked
longer
on.
it goes, the more uncomfortable it gets. And
That's
a lot
right.
of people, I think, they can be the opposite, where it's like, oh, it'll go away, it'll go away. And I get that too. I
But
get
it doesn't. It doesn't go away. That's the thing, is it
Yeah.
doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Should I blow everyone's mind and quote a Greek god right now? Or philosopher, not a god? Seneca? I even know
Let's
his
hear it.
name. I'm going to paraphrase. This is not the exact
Okay.
quote. He who suffers before something
Okay.
suffers longer
Yeah.
for something.
Yeah.
That is the worst philosopher quote ever recorded on a podcast. Just
I
as
don't
far
think
as
so.
no, not the actual quote, but my job of paraphrasing. Gotcha. And if it's not Seneca, I'll edit this out. But if it's in there, you know that I double checked, and it really is a quote from Seneca. I always think Seneca Wallace, who was the backup quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks that I loved because he was fast growing up. Named after a great philosopher.
Amazing.
Yeah, he who suffers before a problem suffers longer. And that's basically the thing is, you got something that you got to handle. Dwelling on it is making it that much worse. Do it. Don't think about it. Stay present. Blah, 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 blah. That's just the fancy way to say it. What do you think? Did you make your point? Did you feel good?
Yeah,
I think so. Say, did you make your point? I thought this was a great conversation.
Yeah, I do too. It's just something that I think a lot about, and it's been on my mind. And like I said, just over the years, you start to put yourself in a little box.
Well, you hear it all the time. You hear this is leadership mentality. This is strength. This is this. Somebody who gets what they want, a go-getter. And you're right. And when it's all said and done, you can look and you can realize that that person is actually dividing and blowing up and more fragile than somebody who can have a challenging moment, internalized, figure out a way to diffuse it, to fix an actual problem solver. There's so much more leadership and so much more strength involved. Yeah, because it involves some time with you being uncomfortable. Like in that situation with your coworker, there was probably a day there, a good 24 hours, where you were uncomfortable going, is she mad at me? She is mad at me. Why is she mad at me? And it involves you doing the work.
I had to do all of the work.
You doing the work.
And her mind was just...
She was, I'm out. Whatever. I'm mad at them. I don't like them.
I'm doing... Yeah. I'm going to...
I don't like... It was you and another girl, right? We're having a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she didn't like what you guys were saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. Not crazy, but yeah. She's viewed in the office as having a strong voice. And I think the best way to put it is she just has the loudest voice. It's not the strongest voice.
For sure. It's, like
sometimes the quietest voices are the strongest.
And I do think there are obviously, I don't possess great leadership qualities. I really don't, because I'm super late. I just think that I just am saying, okay. I'm not saying that quiet people make the best leaders. That's not always the case, but there's just always, there's just something I like to think. It's just something I've been thinking about that, for a while, it kind of messed with me, and I was like, oh man, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this. And it's like, I actually have demonstrated these things in different ways, in ways that you might not ever see.
And that's where the ego thing comes into play, because you need to be able to accept that people aren't going to see it. That loud way, people see it.
They want to be seen, they want to be heard. And I actually, I don't really want to, at least at work or at, I don't really want to be seen. I don't want to be heard a ton.
Yeah. It's okay with you.
And I'm okay with it. Yes. I'm okay with it. But obviously I have to do my job. And there are times that I do need to, speak to a group. Yeah. Did yesterday, and it was okay. I can put it on. I can do it.
You can
I'm not incapable of doing it. Like officiating the wedding.
I mean, that's hard to do.
Our best friend's wedding.
We have 40 seconds, just so you know.
That was something that when you first hear it, you're like, oh, I hope I can do that.
Yeah.
And then,
of course,
one of the best experiences.
Yeah.
ever.
And who's more in charge of a wedding ceremony than the officiant? Where you go, the wedding goes. If you would have just
I could have ruined
pooped
the
your
entire
pants
day.
and vomited,
I could have just ruined
it
everything.
would not have been the best wedding. Anthony and Courtney,
It was
shout
perfect.
out. All right, guys, we got to go. This is the last 5 seconds. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.